I'm not an expert in miniature painting, and whilst I know which end of the paintbrush to hold, most of my experience comes from military scale models. Hello everyone, I'm Matt, this is Model Minute, and join me on the workbench in this video as I see what kind of results you can realistically achieve using the Army Painter Fanatic Starter Paint Set. So this product was pushed in my direction by the hobby guy over on my Discord server, who suggested it might be a good way to explore some more miniature painting. And this product does certainly seem to have everything you kind of need contained within one box. You get this rather nice painting guide, which contains lots of hints and tips on how to use Army Painter products to complete your miniatures. There is a wealth of information and it's all reasonably well explained with some good pictures. There's also a little leaflet which contains all of the paints which are in this Fanatic war paint range. You can tick them off as you get them to keep track. I also had this little sheet of stickers, which I guess are for sticking on things. And then the plastic tray which contains the main bulk of the starter set. As was indicated on the box, one miniature is included. I don't know why I thought this was going to be bigger, but it does make sense that this is in line with wargaming scales, and the sculpt on this figure is quite nice. I'm looking forward to getting some paint on this guy in a minute. Paints wise then, we get 2 metallic paints, a gold and a silver, 1 brush on primer, 1 strong tone wash, and 7 other core colours. These are kind of the primary colours that you might need, so you can mix them to get other shades as desired. Not forgetting of course the included paintbrush. I will use this paintbrush to complete the little miniature, but at times I will also expand onto some of the other brushes I have, because whilst this brush is quite nice and fine, it won't do very well for larger areas. And without any further ado, let's get some paint onto this miniature. Speaking of the larger areas, I'm going to paint the entire figure using the brush on primer. It is worth noting that all of these bottles come with little shaker balls inside of them, so a good thorough mix is definitely achievable before using the paint. This brush on primer was just painted over the entire figure until there was a nice uniform coat. This is going to help the next layers of paint stick to the plastic much better. I was actually surprised by how quickly this dried, which meant I could move straight on to the pure red. I am being inspired by the miniature on the box of this starter set, so I'm going to paint his robes in a red colour. I've used a number of different reds in my scale modelling time, and actually I found the opacity on this one to be really quite good. I found I only needed 1 coat, and it went down really nicely straight out of the bottle. After this, the ultramarine blue would be used to pick out these other fabric elements of his clothing. Again, the opacity here was really quite good. The sculpt of this figure is quite nice as well, which means you can use the edge of your brush to get quite nice lines between the different surface details. I'm trying to use all of the paints included in this set, so the next one, I had to find somewhere to put this demonic yellow. This knight is carrying a shield on his back, and I thought it would be good to paint a couple of the panels in this particular yellow. I did find the opacity was not amazing. I did need to use 2 coats on this one, but that's not really any different to other yellows I've experienced from other brands. Green skin is up next, and this would be used on the other panels on the shield, and this went down pretty well. This figure does have some straps and things on him, and to pick these out I'm going to use the leather brown. This was pretty much the same kind of deal. It was a 1 coat and you're done, and it went down really nicely. Now onto some metallics. Metallics can be a little bit hit and miss. I'm going to use this greedy gold to pick out some elements of his armour and his sword, and this went down reasonably okay. Maybe the opacity wasn't quite as good as I had hoped, but it wasn't too bad, and a little touching up in a few places was needed. This leads us on to the silver colour, which is a plate mail metal. This would be used on all of the other armour elements of the figure, and actually this went down really nicely. This was pretty much a one coat and you're done, and it even went over some of the slightly untidy areas of the other colours which I'd done earlier. So there's not really that much need for the black and the white with how I've painted this so far, but actually this guy is standing on a stone base. So what I'm going to do is mix up the black and the white to make various shades of grey, and then pick out all the different stones in these varying shades. This should add a little bit of visual interest to the base, and this went pretty well too. For the most part, I can't really complain about the opacity of these paints. You do get a wash included, so this is called strong tone. And whilst it might be a strong tone, I don't want to apply too much and kind of ruin the paint finish I've already got. So this was added onto a bigger brush and then painted over the entire figure. The aim here is that this wash is going to seep into all of the recessed details, add some contrast and add sort of shades and shadows to the different elements. This should help to give it a more three-dimensional feel. This was painted over the entire figure, including the stone base. When that was dry, the white paint made a reappearance here, and this would be dry brushed over the figure, only very lightly to try and highlight some of the more raised details. Dry brushing is a process where you put paint on your brush and then remove it on a paper towel or something similar until the brush feels dry. This leaves a very light residue on your brush, which then catches on the raised details and leaves all of the recessed details in shade. When that was done, the final step was to bring the black out and paint the rim of the base. I did find I had to apply 2 coats of paint onto the rim of the base. The opacity on this paint isn't perhaps as deep as other products I've used from other brands. Some other paints I've used, this would be a 1 coat and you're done, but actually 2 coats wasn't too bad, and the paint dried really quickly, which meant that by the time I'd pretty much turned the figure around, I was ready to put the next layer on. And with that, I'm going to call this little included miniature from the Fanatic Starter Paint Set complete. So yeah, this was quite a bit of fun. I really enjoyed trying my hand at something slightly different to what I normally do, and I think I've managed to achieve a fairly acceptable finish on this figure. Granted, I have used just the paints that were included in this starter set, so I think this is a fairly realistic expectation for what someone might be able to achieve out of the box. Part of me kind of wishes that this figure was a little bit bigger, but it does make sense that it be this size to fit in with wargaming scales. I suppose some of my other projects recently have focused on slightly larger figures, and the image on the box art does make it look quite big. I found the paints really easy to use, and I only used a tiny amount of each one to complete this figure, and the opacity for the most part was pretty good. Some of the paints, such as the yellow, the black and the gold, perhaps didn't quite have the thickness that I was looking for, but a couple of thin coats kind of solved that problem. The paints do come included with little mixer balls inside of the bottles, which gives this a more quality feel to the product, and those little accessories such as the painting guide and stickers were a nice touch. So if we talk about the price of this set then, on the Army Painter website this is retailing for £29.49, which as a recommended retail price I don't think is actually too bad. And there are of course other places you can get it where you might be able to get a bit of a discount on that. The reason why I say it's not particularly bad value is because I also looked on the Army Painter website for the prices of the paints separately. So if we look at the 2 metallics, which would have come out at £3.39 a piece, which is £6.78, the brush on primer at £3.39, 1 wash at £3.39, and 7 paints, which would come out at £22.33. If you were to buy all of these paints, and I'm just meaning just the paints, separately, your total would be £35.89. If we subtract the actual price we paid for this starter set, you're saving £6.40. And that of course doesn't take into account the fact you get a brush and a miniature, and stickers and a painting guide, all included as well. So this is a pretty good cost-effective way of getting some Army Painter Fanatic paints to try out and at a cheaper price. Personally, I did enjoy this little project, and I'm looking forward to using these paints on some other figures in the future. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of my little project today and if my assessment of this product was fair. Don't forget that we do have a Model Minutes Model Club, and if you'd like to join the Model Club and get exclusive access to early videos and other perks, check out the links in the description. Massive thanks to these guys on screen for the extra support they give the channel, allowing me to create consistent content. As mentioned, special thanks to the Hobby Guy over on Discord for donating this product to the channel for review. There are other ways to help support the channel as well, and again, full information is below the video. But the best way to support this channel for free is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.